Hello lovely people, welcome back to another book chat with the little fairy muse. There she is. Hello little fairy muse. Highly interested in proceedings, as you can tell. She never knows what I'm up to when I'm doing these things. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about one of my favourite authors, really. And the reason I don't know why I haven't really talked about him that much before. I think I've talked about individual books and that sort of thing. And I was chatting to a friend on Instagram the other day, and she was saying that she tried one of his short stories and it was awful and she hated it, and so she's never tried another one. And I completely understand that, because I've done exactly the same thing. I think it's Karen Slaughter I've still never gone back to, because the first book of hers I picked up, there was a woman raped and set on fire in the first scene. I was like, oh, I'm out, yep, see ya. And I've heard that she actually writes really good books and I should go back and read them, but I just haven't made it back after that one. Like, traumatized. Okay, so the author I'm talking about is Ray Bradbury. So I am going to make some suggestions here for other Ray Bradbury books to read. So I do have Do Not Finishes in Ray Bradbury as well, and that one, A Graveyard Yard for Lunatics, I just never got into it properly. I think I got about halfway through and went, I'm really not invested with the characters, and so I put it down and left it. So while I absolutely adore his writing, it is quite true that not all of his stories are as good as the others, because he wrote a lot. Obviously I've talked before about his Zen and the Art of Writing, which I think is about the most fantastic inspirational book for writers out there, because it is just so full of joy, and the joy of writing, and how much you have to love your creativity and just bury yourself in it. And I would recommend that book if you're looking for inspiration on writing, to absolutely anyone. Zen and the Art of Writing, and that's in the other room, and I didn't bring it, so there we go. And if you're looking for something a little bit less weird, okay, Ray Bradbury, to be honest, his short stories are amazing. So I've got a couple of collections here. The October Country is also fantastic. I've got Driving Blind. I've got a really random selection of covers and titles here. The Illustrated Man, that title story is awesome, and all the stories in there are great as well, actually. So there's a couple of sort of short story collections of his as well. Obviously the book that everyone knows, Fahrenheit 451, and I haven't read it for years, and I picked this up at some stage meaning to reread it, and I just haven't got to it yet. But I do remember loving that when I was younger, and obviously the message in it is so important, especially now, about how easy it is to control a populace that doesn't read and doesn't learn. And so that is, I think, a book that everyone should read at some stage. Fahrenheit 451. Do you agree, Layla? Layla's watching the clock. That's what she's doing. The clock's got a little tail going back and forth, and she's looking. Yeah, where is it? Can you see that? Yeah, my little ticking clock. And Layla's very interested in that, which is slightly worrying. It is stuck down. I hope she doesn't jump it. If you were looking for a longer read of Ray Bradbury's, and you don't want to get too sci-fi about things, I absolutely love this. Dandelion Wine. And it is kind of this science fictionalized, is that a word? Science fictionalized version of his growing up. And it's beautiful. It's full of this really quiet magic, and this very, if you do read, sort of, well, if you've lived through, I'm sure as well, but if you do read sort of American books set around the childhood in the 50s and that sort of thing, it's quite recognizable, these little suburbs that he's talking about in this small town growing up. But everything's just a little bit off. There's a little bit twisted, a little bit, yeah, something just not quite right, but in a wonderful way. Like the man that creates he invents a machine that gives people happiness in his basement. And I think there's a pair of magical shoes in there. It's a while since I read it. I think there's a pair of sort of magical shoes in there as well. And there's all these really just little odd Bradburyisms which are sort of popped in there as well. And it's a beautiful, gentle read, and I really loved that. I absolutely adored it. Obviously, kind of along the same veins as far as that childhood setting is Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I don't know what's happened to that book. I've probably loaned it out at some stage. But that obviously takes a much darker turn towards the end, but I adored that one as well. Absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't read any Ray Bradbury and you do want to dip into them, don't be put off if there's the odd one you can't get into. Like I say, that one from A Graveyard for Lunatics, I didn't connect to it. I'll probably try it again at some stage. But his short stories are a fantastic place to start. He's got lots of different ones. And if you're looking for something a little bit more gentle, Dandelion Wine is wonderful. And it's also, although it's not short stories, you can kind of dip in and out of it very easily into the different chapters from what I remember. Okay, so tell me, if you've read Ray Bradbury, what are your favourite short stories of him? What authors have you been put off by reading one, like basically the wrong story first? And should I try Karen Slaughter again? So let me know below, and we'll talk to you next time.